Sports Joe presents House of Rugby, together with Heineken. Get the facts, be drink aware, visit drinkaware.ie.
Hello, and you're all very welcome to House of Rugby with thanks to Heineken. My name is Maire Treasa Ní Dhubhghaill, and I'm delighted to be joined this week by Darren Cave and JOE.ie's own Pat McCarry as we look back on round 2 of the Rugby World Cup. On today's show, we'll dissect Ireland's comprehensive win against Tonga. We'll touch on the other results as well, and we'll look ahead to the big one as Ireland face the World Cup champions next weekend, and we'll hear from CJ Stander as well. A lot to get through, lads. How are we doing? Yeah. I know.
It's nice to have someone professional driving. When I was first asked to come on, I thought it was Pat, and it wasn't going to be an intro like that.
Oh, it's all professionalism here, Darren. We'll start by looking at Ireland-Tonga, and I suppose Johnny Sexton, after that game, rightly so, got the plaudits as he's after overtaking Ronan O'Gara as Ireland's all-time record point scorer. And the thing about it is, there's a lot more yet to come from this guy.
Yeah, it was impressive, wasn't it? The first sort of 15-20 minutes, I didn't think it was going that smoothly. And in the big picture, I mean, that was only a good thing, right? Just to deal with a little bit of adversity. Romania was smooth sailing. But Ireland, like, very, very impressive. Top of all the stats, line breaks. When the Tonga selection was done, I could understand why he went with that strength against Tonga, but it did make me question the Romania selection. But I think the thing that underpinned it was just like, I've doubted what Andy Farrell's done so many. There's probably no coach like that I've ever thought more, that's strange he's done that. And he's been right so many. Like, even thinking back, the one that always stands out for me, I couldn't believe that he picked Mac Hansen ahead of Rob Balakin. 3 years ago. I remember going, that's like, where does he get this from? And then you look at that now. So yet again,
he has been vindicated.
Yeah. So, but listen, they dealt with a little bit more adversity. It was definitely a step up, and it was another really. It's hard to mark them down on anything.
Touching on the team selection there was a lot of talk in the build-up about starting Johnny Sexton. I was terrified last week. I was like, should we not wrap him in cotton wool? And Johnny Murphy was saying as well that he thought, like Andy Farrell, that he should start. And I suppose it was vital for him to get those minutes under his belt again and to keep that momentum going. Yeah,
there was an interest in the post-match press conference. He was asked if he felt vindicated with his selection, and he took umbrage with that, and he was kind of saying, I'm not vindicated at all. Like, this is the team I'm going to go for. And he gets very kind of put out by that type of stuff, and he just like, there's data we're looking at, we know what we're doing, we have a plan. He's like, it still might not work, we still you might come back and kind of say we got it wrong, but we think we're doing the right thing here. So it's very interesting to see, because I would not have picked that team at all against Tonga. Like, I wouldn't have even predicted that was going to be as full strength as it was. And then that was very interesting. And then even at half time, they were winning by so much, they had the bonus point locked up. And I was like, I can just see Johnny Sexton staying on now for 70 minutes, proving a point again. But then he came off and Furlan came off, and it was kind of, they'd got so far ahead that they're able to kind of rest a few boys. Like, so, it's all going well for now. Like, and we've got through those 2 potential banana skins in terms of injuries. And I think, as even Farrell was pointing out, wasn't it, like, you could fall down in your hotel room like one of the poor Scottish lads did and get injured. Like, so let's just go for it. Like, so interesting.
I think that's typical of Farrell in that, like, he doesn't need to be vindicated because it's not about him. And I do think, people ask what's different about him, and like, I don't know, I've only met him once or twice, but I do think that's one thing that comes across, is that, like, it's genuinely not about him. It's not about him being vindicated or not. It's about Ireland winning games and being in the best position possible to keep winning games. So, like, yet again, he's right, and fair play to him.
Yeah. Well, Johnny Sexton was asked after the game about his record-breaking achievements and if he had it on his mind when he celebrated his try.
I was just happy to score the try. I think one of the lads said it to me under the post, and I actually thought I might have got it on the kick before, but look, I think it's something when you retire and you finish, you can look back on and be very proud. I'm sure some young guys will be eyeing it up, and look, I'm very proud to do it. But tonight was more about getting the win and moving on to what's such a massive game now this week.
Is he now officially Ireland's best player?
Those questions are always difficult to answer on the And when you take into consideration now, when you talk about like different generations, we're now at the stage where like the O'Driscoll era, is actually, it's not just like having an argument, is he better than Jack Kyle? I mean, that's a different sport.
Yeah.
It's a really hard question to answer. And there probably isn't a black and white answer to it. He's certainly up there. He's phenomenal, the impact he's had on the team. And to be honest with you, I'm not surprised that to him, he answered it 100%. Like one day he will sit back and look and think, flip, like, when I wasn't getting picked for Ireland under 21s.
Yeah.
But
he's not thinking about the records he's breaking now. He's solely focused on the task in hand.
It's winning a Rugby World Cup or getting close to winning.
That's it, yeah, because it's been brought up now. The more Ireland are winning and going to New Zealand, and the more these big challenges they're kind of getting over as well, it's like it starts to become more believable that he'd be Ireland's greatest player of all time. And like, it was even, somebody said, oh, well, if they win a World Cup, then he definitely is. Like, it is weird to kind of stack up the trophies and stuff like that. And against him, like, I'd still put O'Driscoll there ahead of him, like, but it's getting closer all the time. I remember doing a story, I think it was after the Lions tour to New Zealand in 2017, saying he was Ireland's best, 10 of all time. And that there was still a debate about that then. And then they went on and won, I think they've won 2 Grand Slams since then. Like, but he's just so vital to what this team do. And it's like, it's almost like, well, Joe Schmidt got brought into it as well. Andy Farrell's done the same. Even Declan Kidney was as well. It's like they realise how good he is and how the team is so much better when he's playing. That, listen, we just like, this is the horse we rode in on. Like, so that's the way they're going, and they're going to ride Sexton until the very end. Like that.
And that's the thing about there's so much talk about who's been behind him and why is there a gap, and that's not meant to be insulting to the players, but because there is a gap. And I think when just somebody is that dominant for so long, it's hard to close the gap, because normally there's succession. The guy in possession of the jersey hits 30s, and as he gets into his 30s, his performances start to dwindle, and then the incumbent plays more and more, and the gap sort of naturally, but it just hasn't happened. Look at the likes of, from a Munster point of view, look at the scrum halves. Now, the crossover may or may not have happened, subject to who you ask, but you can see Conor Murray sort of, that older part of his career as Casey's coming, and you would expect in the next 2 years. But Sexton 38 and he's still doing it. Yeah. It's phenomenal.
And we touched on the rotation of the team, and Andy Farrell felt it was vital to start him this weekend, but it was also really important to start the other players, the frontliners, to give them game time, to iron out some of those mistakes from round one. And it was a pretty complete performance if we look at the first half in particular, Pat. Yeah, and it was an iffy enough start. The ball, Farrell spoke about this thing, and it was the same thing. Remember, I think it was worse in the 2019 World Cup with this film on these new balls they keep talking about, and how it's a little bit slippier and it's hard to kind of hang on to, and the humidity there as well. Like, so it was a little bit shaky for the first 15-20 minutes, and then it just seemed like they'd scored 4 or 5 tries in the space of like 12 minutes or something, and that's how when they just click into gear, that's how clinical they can be as well. But so like it wasn't ideal for them. But yeah, they went down, 59 points to score 8 tries against a really good Tonga side as well. But they'll also be delighted having periods of like where they were under pressure as well, because that didn't happen in the first game. So they'll be delighted with that. But yeah, I think everybody would have walked off, felt that they got a real good workout for that, and they'll feel a little bit more confident now going into the Springboks game than at the weekend. You touched on the slow start, and they had a bit of a slow start against Romania as well. Is that a bit of a concern? I don't think so. I think ultimately, I think it was hard to judge anything in the Romania game except the fact that nobody looked sort of rusty. Everyone looked healthy and fit, and if anything, I think you're better off in the big picture because we've seen games start like that and the side wobble. Yeah. And you see what it comes. We've seen Ireland teams do it, but even right now, you see like even the likes of Wales playing Portugal, and I know they got the bonus point in the end, but that's what happens. And like France against Uruguay, the wobble can grow if the team doesn't stick to what they knew and they keep going with the process. And there's probably, I don't have the score sheet right in front of me, but there's probably a time in that game, like sort of 15 minutes in, where you're going, oh, jeepers, like this is going to be tight. This is going to be a carbon copy of that Samoa game. Yeah. But the way we built and kicked on, now listen, Samoa or Tonga, excuse my ignorance, aren't
at that level, and they give Ireland too many opportunities, mainly probably through discipline. But it's full points really. You can't really mark Ireland down too much.
Yeah, it's 20 points, 20 tries in 2 games, and I know we have to take the opposition into consideration. There are tougher tests to come, and we'll touch on South Africa later. But what has impressed you most over these past 2 weeks, Pat?
Yeah, like certain players almost kind of like really standing out, and like guys you'd hoped would come to the fore are kind of doing it again. That's the thing for me. I was even during being at some of the warm-up games. It's the amount of lads that are like putting in 8, 9 out of 10 performances. Like they're not 100% perfect, but like you can rely on around 6 or 7 lads in nearly every game, and it's the same guys stepping up again. Like Bundee Aki was incredible at the weekend. I was actually I'm going to open my notepad for the first time.
Darren, you're under pressure here. Your diary.
Yeah.
I should have
be
made
open
notes
later.
But yeah, Aki's got 270 metres off 39 carries, 4 tries and assists, 7 line breaks, and he's beaten 13 defenders. And then even at the end of the game, he was kind of saying, I only made 4 tackles. Like, so like,
yeah. But Ireland are, when you look at the stats on the Rugby World Cup website, because when I was being partially professional, I looked, and then unprofessional, I didn't write them all down. It's funny because Ireland are top of like most carries, most meters made, most tries scored, like most conversions, most points, least penalties conceded, least. They're actually hitting all the markers, albeit against that opposition. But to sort of, it's not actually because of the level of opposition. It's more the kind of total opposite point for me, like cause for concern. There's no real cause for concern. I think that was the most important thing. Like, because those games are difficult, and I love having a laugh about it. But I played in a few fixtures like that, and you are damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't, because the opposition's not at that level. Tonga a little different to Romania, but the headline for me, just leaving those 2 games, is there's just no cause for concern.
Would you not be concerned about the amount of penalties they gave away? 13. Like, their discipline has been impeccable up until now, and I know Paul O'Connell spoke about it after the game. He touched on it, and he wasn't too happy with that aspect of their game. But is it something to worry about?
There was one actually at the end. Farrell was speaking again. It was about the period where O'Mahony got himself yellow carded, and he was talking about that. He thought they were a bit too frantic trying to defend their line, and they wanted a bit more discipline there. And like lads are going in, and like it's easy. It's like after 40 minutes, like flat out. Tonga now kind of have their kind of tails up then as well. Like, so yeah, they weren't happy with that. It's like, just trust each other, kind of back yourselves, and kind of maybe lads are going in trying to like end an attack on their own and stuff like that. So that's something, that I suppose they would concern them. Ireland rarely give away double figures of penalties as well. Like, so that's what it was like. But yourself, Maire Treasa, when you were kind of watching it, did anything kind of like, are you kind of now worried going into that Springboks game they might give away some penalties, or especially with Manny Livock, he can just chill the boots. He's going to be missing all the penalties.
Well, or else we'll have Andre Pollard in there as well.
Could be.
So I suppose what I was looking for was an improvement when it came to things that did stand out from Romania, like they touched on it themselves, the line out, which was humming nicely after that performance, and the scrum as well. And these are areas that South Africa are going to zone in on, but it's just the cohesion between the players and the fluidity in their attack. I think, we saw Mac on fire, his bit of magic, and Bundee's tries, those little nuances in their game. And I think having that extra time together to iron out those mistakes was really important, and to get those extra minutes into these frontline players was huge.
Yeah, and I think the thing, it's different for us in the media or in the public at the minute in Ireland, because we've just gone rugby insane because we're trying to stay calm. And I do think the line out wasn't where it's been for 2 or 3 weeks, but it was interesting. Paul O'Connell was asked about it, and he was just straight about it. He was like, this is not a problem.
Okay.
He wasn't one bit worried.
No.
It would make you wonder, is he holding stuff back for South Africa? Is it all part of this master plan?
It could be, but I don't know. I think they've got enough in it that they should be winning, a lot of their lineouts. But to bring it back to the point about discipline, like, I just don't like. Do I think Ireland's discipline is good enough to beat the Springboks? Yes, without doubt. They're the best disciplined team in world rugby, probably, certainly international rugby. So I'm not saying that they weren't sloppy in that little period. I'm saying that does not undo actually probably 8 years of being phenomenally well disciplined. And I won't make any comments about how likely we are to get cards, but I think we are on the more. I don't want to Scottish, so I won't finish that sentence. I think everyone knows what I'm thinking. I'm not going to say it.
Well, it was the first card that Ireland have gotten since 14 months ago. Andrew Porto was awarded a card against New Zealand, but that's the first card Peter O'Mahony since then. So I'm sure it'll be an area of focus this week. And one of the things that comes from the Irish camp over and over again from the management team is how adaptable this team is and how they're able to learn on the spot and how they're able to focus and move on to the next job straight away. Yeah,
it's all again like led by someone like Sexton as well. Like we were only talking about a little bit earlier, like that kind of computer brain that he has, and you kind of played with him as well, that like he can recall a play that they had like 6 years ago against Claremont or something like that, and he can tell you exactly what happened. And he was even talking after the game about like he knew at Ringrose where to be because they'd run a similar one. And it's like, I don't know how you could kind of have a brain like that, but you've probably experienced kind of what he's like to train and play with. Like.
Yeah, and that it's funny because so much you go, why is he so good? Why is he so good? But I actually don't. He just thinks. I think he thinks quicker than people. Yeah, and he sees it a little bit quicker. Yeah.
That's what a lot of players say that have played with him. That he sees things before they happen, and he knows where everyone is meant to be.
If you ever, not to go too far off tangent, but if you ever read that book Bounce by Matthew Said, the Times journalist, and he was a Commonwealth table tennis player, and the reaction time for a serve in table tennis is, I think it's under half the reaction time in real tennis. So when he retired, he went for a hit around with Boris Becker. Yeah. And he said that he heard the ball hitting the fence behind him before he saw it. And the point is, so in table tennis, he would have reacted in half the speed, but there is so much subconscious information going through the head that enables tennis players to react, and it's off small cues in what they do and that speed of thought. And that's what Johnny does. He goes around the pitch and he knows if they come off a sideline, hit the day. If he sees the winger high there, he knows the fullbacks. It's like kind of like that quarterback style of he has a checklist of data that he just goes through quicker than other players. It's really, I say it's as simple as that, but that's what he does. Like, I'm not saying, like, you know, he can, he's a bit of a try score machine at the moment. He tied second. But I just think that's what he does. He thinks faster than probably most people and nearly anyone in world rugby. And as a result, he's able to execute because he seems to have time on the ball. Because he's processing it so quickly. And
one of the most important things for Ireland is that he's come through unscathed from these first two rounds, because that was the worry that he wouldn't be available to us against the Springboks. And looking at the team, we're in a pretty good place when it comes to injuries. I know Finlay Bealham didn't come back. We don't know what his story is, but it's more than likely that he will not play next weekend. So that means that Tom O'Toole comes into the team. How much of a drop-off is that in when it comes to performance-wise, having Tom O'Toole on the bench as opposed to Finlay?
Tom O'Toole's, he's somebody who's getting better all the time. Even talking to, you probably know Mel, like, you know, Willie Anderson up at, like, he's so high on Tom O'Toole and thinks he's, like, I remember even like, this is a guy to watch, this guy's going to be an Ireland international, and we're only kind of seeing glimpses of it. Like, you know, they're happy with him, but he's not, like, Bealham is kind of, he satisfies them a little bit more of kind of getting all the work done around the pitch. Like, but yeah, Tom O'Toole will still come on, and like it's not a huge drop off. Like, you know, it's maybe the loss of Cian Healy is probably even more of a kind of a shame for Ireland. Like, but Tom will kind of do the job. Yeah, it looks like Bealham might have to be arrested for like 12 days because of the footage. He was taken off because of the footage they seen. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. But again, like, you probably have the likes of then Furlong will be asked to go at least like 60 minutes, 65, maybe even longer. Like, and then
he was delighted to be taken off last week, or jersey off and everything.
He was back on then, wasn't he, a few minutes later?
It's not all about like Tom O'Toole. Some of it, like, I do think Bealham, I don't know if he's improved or as a public we've just bought into him more. Yeah. Probably a bit of both. I think we loved this narrative that like Tadhg Furlong, because Tadhg Furlong was so good, we loved this narrative that if he didn't play we were stuffed. And then what happened was he didn't play a few times and we weren't stuffed because Bealham had done so well. So to answer the question, I think Bealham has closed the gap, moved up towards Furlong quite a lot, and I think it'd be unfair to say it's a drop-off. At the same time, it wouldn't be an opinion, it would be factually correct to say that Tom O'Toole is not as proven at that level.
Well, I suppose we haven't seen that much of him, and we're basing it on what we have seen. And I suppose Andy Farrell has faith in his squad. He has faith in his team. So he won't see it as a drop off in form or, a step down or a reduction in performance when Tom O'Toole has to come on.
Yeah, and I kind of found it interesting that as I said, I was surprised with the squad they announced for the Tonga game. I thought they would have been Jimmy O'Brien and Stuart McCloskey would have featured, but I kind of think that you'll see every player will get a game or some kind of minutes before the end of the pool stage, because there is that kind of group mentality with these guys where they might just be on the bench or something, but you'll probably see a couple of them featuring against Scotland, and yeah, they seem to have this trust. And Farrell, no matter this is what they're telling the squad as well, but in any press conference he's saying like everyone knows he has his frontliners and the guys he trusts, but there is this very much faith in the next guy that's going to step up, and we're not going to worry about you. You're going to come in and we have faith that you're going to do the job, and that's what's been preached to the players. So it'll be very interesting to see how it gets on, and against however many forwards the Springboks put on the bench for this weekend.
8.
Yeah.
It's funny with everyone in the squad getting a game. I think that in Ireland now, because of what happened in 2007, and that was sort of goes down as, I don't know if it was our worst performing World Cup, but it's known as sort of the biggest shambles, if you will. And then since then, it's been almost like this narrative that everyone has to play. And I went into 2015 and the narrative everyone was going to play.
Yeah.
And you'd have thought that of all the coaches, Farrell would be the one that would be most pro. Everyone's going to play because we're a team and we're a group and that's what we do. I'm actually not convinced anymore. I actually wonder, is his group so tight and so is a group actually that good that he knows he doesn't have to play Darren or Pat just to keep him happy because they're bad apples?
Yes.
I actually wonder, and will we? Because if he was going to, it's not the time to be. Listen, South Africa and Scotland, it's not a.
Well, the break week, I think, will benefit Ireland a lot, and we'll probably see the likes of Stuart McCloskey and Jimmy O'Brien and probably Jack Conan. We don't know, will he feature next weekend? So we'll probably see them come back in for Scotland. Yeah,
the thing that maybe flagged it for me was the fact that Craig Casey was on the bench then for the weekend, that he's going to maybe just dot in a couple of these guys. But you could be right as well. It'd be interesting, even again for this weekend, I don't see Sheehan or Jack Conan starting. He's supposed to be a doubt again for this one. So I was saying Cian Prendergast probably be looking at this from home, he's missed 3 games, but
McCluskey's the interesting one because Henshaw hasn't played that much.
Yeah.
So if you're going to rotate and and with that there being a down week, listen, it's funny. There's so many layers. Because the other thing is it's not actually. It's not all or nothing this weekend. Of course you want to beat the Springboks, win the group, but ultimately in the big picture, you have to. Let's assume, and you should never assume, we beat Scotland. You only have to beat one of you could lose to South Africa and beat France, or vice versa. You only have to win one of those games.
But it would be a huge statement if we beat the World Cup champions. It is very important for momentum and for morale and for, I suppose, Ireland going forward, that they have that notch on their belt.
I kind of find, I wonder whether you, Darren, you would you went to World Cup, because I sometimes feel that us as journalists and the public, we have all this scar tissue, and we sometimes you'd feel I'm bringing the players down. Oh, what about the quarter final? And I felt that going into 2019, and now Ireland weren't in as good a form, but it doesn't seem to be around the squad that much. They haven't. It's almost they're winning so many games that it's not even a part of their kind of thinking. But maybe they might get wounded if they do lose. So it might seep in again. But that negativity doesn't seem to be around them. But I wonder if you got that a little bit when you used to play from all of us.
I think it was just I don't think the media and the public I think the odd player or the odd coach probably gets a bit peeved at one or two silly things that they probably shouldn't. But as a whole, it's not about it's about what you've done as a group, and in 2015 or in 2019, probably the biggest difference now is they're just not scared of anyone. And they shouldn't be.
They shouldn't be, because they've beaten the best.
But
they know nothing but winning this group.
So it's not, and you can put the narrative, we've never got past the quarterfinal, and I don't have the stats in front of me, but you could also look at the other stats, which are more important. How many times in the last 5 have we beaten France? How many times in the last 5 we've beaten South Africa, Australia? And look at all those big teams, and I bet you not one of them has a 50% win ratio against us. So I'm not saying the Boks won't be good. I'm not saying France won't be good. I'm saying if I was another team, I would not want to play us.
Yeah. So team selection, before we move on to the other results from the weekend. what decisions need to be made? Does Jameson Gibson Park come straight in, or is there a case to be made for Murray to start that game with his kicking game?
Yeah, I think Stephen Ferris raised that at the weekend, and yeah, I would have. Yeah, it is an interesting one because it's like Murray always has the size as well. His kicking is superior. The way, like Ferris was kind of talking about it, it's interesting that because like Jameson Gibson Park is 90 miles an hour all the time, and you can even see himself. He'll take the odd quick tap, and he just wants to get going. But like, is that a good idea against South Africa? Like, it's in because they'd almost scare you so much what they did against Scotland. Like, they just gave Finn Russell no space. Duhan van der Merwe hardly got a touch of the ball. It didn't get out wide to him at all. Like, so, what are the plans going to be for that? Like, so is Murray the smarter choice? But I'd kind of like personally, I'd probably go Gibson Park and then Murray to finish it off. But yeah, that's the big one. And then who starts hooker as well? And then the only other one is like,
who's the backup to Johnny?
Yeah, but I don't think that question's even been answered yet. Like maybe Ross Byrne because they gave him the 40 minutes, but it's not like you could have either of them. Like it's almost like a flip of a coin for me. Like I couldn't guess. Like, but Farrell probably has an idea who it's going to be. But they're the big ones. And then does Tyke Byrne start in the back row? But I imagine they want Peter O'Mahony because he's such a line out option. Like I'd say it's the exact same team against Tonga. Probably even Kelleher starting, and then who do you choose then at scrum half?
Yeah, but it's nice that the player, the quality of player that we're tossing around is just phenomenal.
Yeah,
like even I was thinking of that because I've heard people talking about the South African line out, and is there a case for putting O'Mahony at 7?
Yeah,
and then you're going, so we're talking about putting the World Player of the Year on the bench.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah,
and the players coming in, you're talking lions all over the show. I do. To answer your question, is there a case for it at scrum half? Yes. I think there's a very strong case for both.
Yeah.
The way Murray plays, you could say, well, it's a nice way to start the game, isn't it? Like exit well, and then Gibson Park come on with tempo. Equally, I do think Gibson Park underpins the Irish brand of rugby over the past 24 months. So there's a very strong argument to go with that, and then let Murray come on and hopefully close it out. I do think it would be a big call. The hooker actually is going to be fascinating because
he took Kelleher off after 30 minutes, was it, or 40?
I think it was around 40. Yeah. I think he came off at the break.
Not to have the Ulster bias, but Herring's the only one at the minute from a fitness point of view. We know 100% that we can rely on him. Not in terms of quality. All three of them are phenomenal, and if all three are fully fit, I do think Herring is at the bottom of that pile. But it's not just about that. It's about who's going to. You don't want to have two guys that are carrying knocks or have been carrying knocks. So that's going to be. It's in Farrell we trust. Put it that way.
It was interesting. They always have to nominate like one of the props to be in, like, or they have to nominate who your extra hooker is going to be. And it was interesting in the team sheet at the weekend. Dave Kilcoyne got that little X. Like, so yeah, like, is he practicing?
What did they tell him?
Actually, maybe don't even think about it. Like, but
he just found out if he listens.
But yeah, Herring is what a great player to have. Like, because everyone's always like talking about Sheehan or Kelleher, but I think
he is an eye for the try line as well, doesn't he?
I think somebody said he's got his 6th international try this weekend. Somebody said he'd got his 5th against Romania, and they're like, it feels like he scored 20 tries for Ireland. The exact same thing.
But I think there's a feeling in the sort of rugby public that the other two have a higher ceiling. But in terms of reliability for Ireland, and reliability, remember, is fitness. Like, he has been there, and he is rock solid. So it would be actually a big call to not make him one of the other, given. Again, I don't have the stats, but when was the last time one of the other two played?
You need to get onto those stats. Put something into that book.
It's better just to throw it out and then guarantee that nobody's going to look it up. I was about to say, when was the last time like Ronan Kelleher or Dan Sheehan played sort of 70 minutes plus? And if the answer to that doesn't fit my point, then don't use that. Cut. Yeah.
Well, we look at now other results from the weekend. We had an unexpectedly exciting weekend. France with a heavily rotated side. They had to work hard to beat Uruguay. That finished 27-12. New Zealand thrashed Namibia, scoring 11 tries, beat them 71-3. Samoa got the better of Chile, 43-10. A really exciting game. Portugal put it up to Wales. They managed to get the bonus point in the end, 28-8 the result there. Another rough day for Romania. South Africa demolished them 76-0. A historic night for Fiji. They beat Australia for the first time since 1954. So Eddie Jones certainly under pressure now. The final score there was 22-15, and England eventually got the job done against Japan 34-12. So what stood out for you, Darren?
everyone just loves Fiji now, don't they? I think
know.
we've always liked them, but the fact now that they're actually, it's funny, coming into the World Cup and who's your dark horse, and people are going, oh, Fiji could get out of their group, and you're there going like, they're 7th in the world, in quite a sophisticated algorithm, right? So like they should get out of their group on that. I actually had a sort of, wasn't a smile, but I did think, God love Romania. Do you know what I mean? They rocked up for the World Cup, but so much is made of the draw. At the top level, it's going to be, and like poor Romania, they're rocking up, going, can we get a scalp? And they've played twice and conceded how many points?
Oh my God, yeah, 150 odd, yeah.
What stood out, albeit it doesn't tell the full story, like another very good result for England. I think everyone enjoyed seeing Fiji win, and then outside of that, there was a few teams sort of limping, wasn't there? Like a few of the score lines, but a lot of those games were very close. Like the Samoa-Chile game wasn't a home run. Obviously Uruguay-France wasn't a home run. Wales-Portugal, 82nd minute bonus point. So if we take our Irish hats off for a second, and the fact that we're all unanimously disappointed that England won, lots of like teams, you know what I mean, like limping around, like Portugal, Wales should be doing a bit of damage. In fixtures like that, and then.
But it comes back to the point that these teams were so heavily rotated, so it's costing them.
It's because like France, then again, like all the momentum. Then no, it's not going to be completely taken away from them, but the momentum from beating the All Blacks, then they were really kind of like the Uruguay really put it up to them. Like, and I was like, you start tuning into a game, or you might flick over and you're like, oh, this is closer. And then you kind of pay a bit more attention. And then they got that try in the corner, and you're like, I think they were like 8 points down with, 50 minutes to go. And you're like, okay, here we go. Like, and then I was like, even you're like, I might tweet about this. I might throw a tweet out into the world. And you're like, this is going to be a great, everyone tune in now if you're not watching. Then it's like 60 seconds later, they do a clearance into the back of their own player. France score, like, and you're like, Miafu kind of crashes over. And you're like, okay, that's game over. Like, But yeah, like a needed Faletau scoring right at the very end for Wales to get a bonus point, and that could turn out to be crucial considering like what's happening in their pool as well. So interesting. Like some lads are getting their chance and not taking it then as well. Like so, maybe the squad depth isn't there for everyone else. But the All Blacks they did all right. A couple of lads maybe putting their hands up for later on in the tournament as well. Like it's kind of just individuals kind of have a chance. Like I was interested to see Halstoy, how he did against Uruguay as well, because he's a class player for like La Rochelle last season. Like, but like would he put any pressure on Jalibert or something like that? But not really. Like so, and I suppose the big standout one was Fiji. Like as I said, the rankings, I think they've now overtaken the Aussies. So it wasn't like you'd say a shock, but then I think they've won 18 times in a row against them. So like the Aussies, like so it is a shock in terms of they just hadn't beaten them in that long.
The first time beating them in 69 years. That's a stat for you.
Did I not say that? Did you edit that out?
But I think it was the big shame. Like now, Fiji won't really care at the moment, but that they missed that penalty at the end that could have denied the Aussies a bonus point as well. Like so, but Eddie Jones is like you could see what he was doing before the tournament, picking a load of young players and saying we're building for the next World Cup. Like I wish I could do that in my job. Say I'm focusing on 2027. Like
but next week is going to be very interesting. Wales, Australia.
Yeah, that'll be a great and. The Welsh, like they're building a bit of momentum about them as well. Like I actually think the Welsh, look at 2011 when they beat Ireland and got to a semi-final. Like I think they enjoy being out of Wales, like because the pressure on them is big. Like so, whenever they go off to World Cup, they seem to enjoy it a lot more. I saw Dan Bigger was hanging out with Aaron Ramsey and playing a bit of football with him and stuff. And
it's Wales are one of those teams that you just. It's hard to write them off. Like for years, I've sort of thought Wales. I'm not sure about them.
Yeah.
And then they win a Grand Slam. And then you go, but it was a lucky Grand Slam. And you're like, it was actually a lucky Grand Slam. There's no such thing. So I'm reluctant to sort of write them off. But the Beavers, they looked poor, and I think bonus points is the thing with that group.
Yeah.
And those groups where teams you might find that one team or three teams all lose one game or. Ultimately, on that side of the draw as well, the reward for winning your group is, it's not that big really on our side of the draw, is it? You win your group and you get the All Blacks, party time.
Would you still be worried about taking on the All Blacks after their result?
Yeah, it's just not like you just,
you can never rest easy,
It doesn't feel right. I had this conversation with someone earlier going, it's
like pick your poison.
It is like that. Because they're another team who they have been underwhelming, but you just know they're not going to be that crap. So listen, if we were neutrals, it's weird because this whole seeding thing has actually made it like really, really interesting. None of the every single quarterfinal is going to be a great game. It's just a pity we're not neutrals.
I know,
Well, we'll turn our focus now to South Africa next weekend, and Pat had a chance to catch up with Ireland's CJ Stander, who has a foot in both camps, and asked him where his allegiances lie.
I saw that article. I've got a lot of stick again. But look, my personal view is that, and I've said this before, is that I was born in South Africa and I can't change that I'm South African. But I played 50 tests for Ireland, and to turn over now and to support the Springboks would just be, I don't know, for me. I'm an Irishman, and that's who I'm going to back on the weekend. They are, even if they don't play well, that's my team.
Well, the real work starts now. We're facing the World Cup champions. They demolished, as I said earlier, Romania 76-0. Did we learn anything new?
Romania. Spare a thought for them.
It felt like, 11 and a half minutes, the bonus bonus point wrapped up. Yeah,
that's how you get the bonus point.
And you were kind of like, this could have been, what was the record win? Was like the All Blacks beat Japan 145, something like back in the day. And you're like, geez, they could put triple figures on them. But fair play to Romania for keeping it under 80.
Did we learn anything about South Africa?
Well, it was interesting. Well, like, it wasn't the four scrum halves that were all everybody. They just seem to be taking the piss with kind of like a selection every week or having a bit of fun with it or something like that. But yeah, like people like I think, doesn't Cobus Reinach now have the record for like 2 of the fastest World Cup, hat tricks of all time? Like, and just their players kind of got a chance. I think there was a bit of controversy, wasn't there, about the Jean Klein tackle as well, and kind of. The bunker review, not the bunker review, the TMO said it was chest first and stuff. So he's lucky that he's not. I don't think he'll get cited. Well, maybe he will. But would he miss the game at the weekend? Just their lads kind of got a bit of a run out, and but yeah, they'll change it up again a good bit, won't they, for this weekend?
Like, we know how powerful they are. We know what's coming down the tracks. It's all about how we deal with it now. So how do we?
It was funny watching them at the weekend, and like Ireland a week before, I think. It's not how impressive they were. It's exactly what I said about Ireland from a Bok point of view. They've got there's nothing at the minute that would concern them coming into this game. Like, they look sharp. I did think it was interesting how dominant, and it is hard because per Romania, but it was all over the pitch. It was like, and even going through the highlights again this morning, and you're going, maul try, scrum try, Mapimpi hat trick. It literally was all over the park. So they look good, and like, what a game it's going to be this weekend.
How much of a loss is Malcolm Marx? We know they're not replacing the hooker now, and he's probably one of the best hookers in the world. So his World Cup is unfortunately over for him. Maybe good for Ireland, but they're not bringing in a replacement hooker. They're going with Pollard. So obviously they're thinking it's more important to have a kicker. Yeah,
it's what a handy thing to have Pollard kind of coming back in for you. Like, and there's talk that he might not be fit for Ireland, like, but you could see him on the bench or something. But yeah, Marks is a class player. Like, he made the world team of the year last year, but I think he only started like a third of their games. Like, but he made such an impact coming off the bench in all those games, and he's a great like breakdown thread as well. Like, he's just like this absolute unit as well. Like, so to have him out is positive for Ireland as well. But it'd be interesting to see who the backup is. Like Dion Forey is kind of like, he does a bit of back row and a bit of hooker if they need him to do it as well. But yeah, he's a loss for them, all right. Yeah, like and again, one of the bomb squad as well. Like, so that's taken a little bit off that. Like the infamous.
The Boks love that, don't they? 4 scrum halves. Don't like swap a hooker for a fly half. Move the number 8 to hooker. Like, they just that's Rassie for you, isn't it? In the big picture, I do think there is a gap between Pollard and the next 10. Like, I love watching Willemse. Like, but not really at 10. It's all right against Romania, but like at the very, very top level. I think Manny Lebok is good, but I don't think he's like absolute rock solid. Like, listen, he's a good kicker, but
he has mistake in him, kind of a
he does.
Guy, like,
and I do think at the top level, like a lot of rugby.
So what'll they do? Will they start Lebok?
Oh, I'd say so, yeah.
I think they will, yeah. And I just think in the big picture, like nobody wants to lose Malcolm Marks from their squad, but that's a serious addition to be putting back in if you're going to go the whole way. I think, did Willems have played 10 in the game in November, I think, in Dublin,
I think
didn't he?
yeah.
Because I obviously did my research, and if he didn't, edit that out as well, please. And just for me, like, he is so talented, but maybe it's just a personal opinion. I don't love throwing a talented bloke in the 10. I like, the number 10 being like an out and out quality number 10. So in the big picture, I think it'll definitely weaken them, but at the same time, it could bring them, back up and beyond.
So how do Ireland approach this game? What do we need to do to win?
Yeah.
Come on, Pat, in one word.
How do you counteract that line speed? Like they were talking about like Peter Steph du Toit, like how he would go after. Like he's the guy who's going to, almost like the Van der Fleer of the Springbok team, that he's going to be the one hunting everybody down. How do you they do very similar to what Ireland do, like they absolutely, like, they fly up on the outside, so all of a sudden, like, your passing lanes are kind of blocked off as well. So how do you do that? The temptation is you just really have to change it up a little bit, like play deep every now and then, kick it in behind them every now and then, put up, like, they're going to be putting up kicks in the air. You'll see a lot more kicking, I'd say, than they've done in the last while. Like, everybody's thinking, have Ireland almost like spread it wide a good bit in the first 2 games to kind of like throw the South Africans off a little bit. It'll be a lot, like, much more close quarters kind of stuff going on as well. But yeah, the kicking game is going to be crucial, because you have to just put it in behind them a few times smartly and win the ball back to stop them kind of pushing up on you so much as well. Like,
I definitely think they'll, like, the one thing we can say is, like, they will have a serious plan.
Yeah,
and they will be like, and again, from being that World Cup in 2015, the plans for these teams will have started in July. They will have a menu of plays that they've been starting to walk through from July, and then they won't have used them. And people talk about the line out, and like these are plays that we won't have seen in the past. I'm not saying like silly stuff up our sleeve. I'm saying they will be very well prepared to play into this South African blitz. I don't think you'll see big, long, deep, loose passes. I think you'll see lots of innovative kicking, offset piece. I think you might see them just dinking it in behind, lots of changes of direction, and then putting the ball through. What gives teams like that energy with that line speed is big, long, loopy passes, and then you get hit between the gain line, and then everyone flies in, then you get a penalty, and the back slapping starts and the tails are up. I believe, I would be surprised if we give them the opportunity to do that. I think we'll frustrate them, kick it behind them, change direction. I think we'll have a good plan. So it doesn't, I'm not saying, I was going to say it doesn't concern me. I think we'll be well prepared for it.
Yeah.
If you look at how Ireland attack, like, we don't throw long passes, lots short passes. We're good with our depth variation. We don't like stand 20 metres deep and let teams take the space. We stand flat and invite people onto us, but then still play. So listen, like, I'm not belittling this, how tough a game this is going to be. I'm saying I'd be stunned if we weren't ready for it.
They're going to come after us at the breakdown, and we saw how Tonga were physical there and troubled Ireland at times. Is this an area of concern?
Yeah, like, be very interested to see. Like, this is where, again, like, this is where James Ryan will be so crucial, like, where his job will be to kind of, like, not just him, of course, O'Mahony's very good at it as well, but, like, it's kind of like targeting the guys who are going to be coming in and taking them off and clearing out as quick as you can. And they'll kind of, they kind of, and then, like, again, someone like Van der Fleer and stuff like that as well, like, they'll it's going to be so interesting to kind of see what they do and who takes the brunt of kind of, I'll do the donkey work, and will everybody expecting Byrne to do the poaching, or will somebody else come in and do it? But this is where you're going to have to be so physical and kind of this is like, if James Ryan will have a good game, if O'Mahony has a good game, that you might not see him making any carries, like, but they'll just, their jobs will be to try and clear these boys off and kind of and hold them off as well, like, so and then even this is where Bundee Aki comes into it as well, and kind of like, we need you to kind of step up, and even like Lowe and Hansen, you'll see him coming in if they're needed as well, like, so this is all hands on deck, like, kind of getting excited. It's only Monday.
I know,
it's going to be great, isn't
it? Touching on Bundee there, because we just touched on his performances earlier, but it's worth giving him another mention. Like, he is absolutely undroppable at the moment. What is he doing that makes him such a crucial cog for this Ireland team at the moment?
It's funny, I got asked about the week before the World Cup up who my number one centre pairing was, and I said that I think if Henshaw gets minutes, it'll be Henshaw and Ringrose. And it's funny, like that clip will probably come up now. People going, he's an idiot. He is an idiot, which is fair enough. But yeah, he's been great. I think over and above what he's been doing for the last, 5 years, I think he's always been a good organiser. He's always been physical, very, very loud, and a big personality. I think he looks a little bit sharper, like in terms of, like, I'm not saying he hasn't scored a few nice tries for Ireland, but he's been cutting lines, and he looks big, but he looks quick. And I do think he just looks that little bit sharper than what I've seen from him before, and I do think that will be important because, like, the game's about winning collisions, but to win a collision, you don't have to run at somebody's sternum. You can run at gaps, and if you run at gaps, then it's an arms tackle, and then you win the collision, and then it's the ruck's not a mess. You can get quick ball. So I think he's going to have a big game. And I suppose, again, to answer your question, I think he looks slightly... Now, the opposition have been poor.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen him, like, even that try he ran in against Romania, like, he showed a bit of pace.
Yeah.
He looks big and sharp, and he's been brilliant the last couple of weeks.
And he's brimming with confidence. So before we finish up, Pat, we've got momentum, we've got the confidence. Will we beat the world champions?
Oh my god! Yeah, it's very interesting. I wish you went first.
Go look at your notes quickly.
What did I write down earlier?
Yeah. It's almost like this team keep proving to you that they're a step above any other team we've kind of seen before, and it's like you still have, maybe, as I said, the years of scar tissue in the back of your head. You're like, oh, here we go. Like, but yeah, I think that they feel they're capable. They've world-class players all over the place. Yeah, they're playing an absolutely brilliant side as well. It's going to be very kind of tight and tense, I'd say. But yeah, I think they're capable of beating them at the weekend.
Darren, what does your head and heart say?
That was, you didn't answer. You said, I think they're capable of...
Oh, yeah,
actually.
Okay.
Of course they're capable of it. Are they going to do it?
24-19 then, yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Listen, it's not a clean cut. On the basis of probability, are Ireland more likely to win than lose? I believe they are more likely to win. As in, I'm not saying it's 80%, 20%. I'm saying my head tells me they have more injuries than us. I get the bomb squad and I get all that. I just think we'll be well prepared on both sides of the ball. We'll be well disciplined, and yeah, I think on the basis of probability, we're more likely to win than lose. Does that answer your question?
I'll take it. I'll take it.
That's all you're getting.
We're going to win, and we're going to win the World Cup. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't believe you put it up to me and then came up with that. Like.
Can you get off the fence, Pat? So I'm going to jump on it. I said yes.
Well, there's certainly a lot to look forward to. My thanks to Darren and to Pat. We have the game of the tournament to look forward to next weekend, and we'll be back with you next Monday again on House of Rugby with thanks to Heineken. Until then, slán go fóill.
Sports Joe presents House of Rugby, together with Heineken. Get the facts, be drink aware, visit drinkaware.ie.